Welcome to We Are Venomaniacs, the Venom Site's official podcast for all of your symbiote news, reviews, and point of views. My name is Orion, and I'm joined by hosts Carlos, Tyler, and Aaron. Say hi, guys.
Hey, yo.
Hello.
Heyo.
We are also joined by special guest Aliee, who goes by Miss Darkling on We Are Venomaniacs Discord server and at Let's Talk Scream on Twitter. Welcome to the podcast, Aliee.
Hello, thanks.
It's week 2 of our Absolute Carnage podcast series in which we cover the event's latest comics and tie-ins. Today, we're doing a rapid-fire review of Absolute Carnage, Separation Anxiety number 1, and Absolute Carnage, Scream number 1. So let's just jump into, I guess, would be maybe Allie's favorite topic today, which is Absolute Carnage, Scream number 1. So I guess we can start with just what is everyone's, general review of this issue? Let's start with you, Aliee, since you're the super fan here.
I loved it. I think I've read it 3 different times already today.
Excellent. Yeah, I read it at least twice now, and it is quite the trip. So, what about everyone else?
Oh, I absolutely just loved it. I really just can't believe that Scream's back in comic form, and Colin Bunn did such a fantastic job reintroducing her, and Sandoval did such a great job on the art, and yeah, I really loved it too.
All right, now for me and Tyler to talk negative stuff. So the art was good for Sandoval. He's good at drawing symbiotes, but the sharp edges of the people just kind of don't look as good as I think they should. But, Bunn's writing was also good. I think the problem he had to face, though, was that he had to reintroduce, 4 people, He had to say who Scream was. He had to say who Donna Diego was. He had to explain who Patricia Robinson was. And then he had to explain who Andy Bitton was. And I think that kind of dragged it down. I feel like new readers probably won't be probably drawn into this one as probably they were in Separation Anxiety. But I did like this issue at least to see Scream back in action, even though it's not completely Donna Diego. But I guess we can talk about that next if someone else wants to go.
Well, I'll just say that I liked it a lot more than I expected going into it. Again, because it's Patricia, I've never been I've always disliked the way run, obviously, and so it was really weird when it was announced to be Patricia in the first place. Reading the comic, it definitely, like Aaron was saying, I definitely thought it was a little jarring with first we got Donna coming back, and it's Absolute Carnage. Oh, also this is Patricia. Also, and it's this is the Scream symbiote. And it did get a little rapid fire, and it's kind of a lot to take in at once, and then it's sort of just over by the end of it real fast. Oh, this is Andy. By the way, comic's done. All right, next time. So it's a lot of setting up you had to do, but like I said, I did like a lot of the stuff that was going on. I kind of liked how the symbiote was Donna's personality is sort of still there in the symbiote, in the dead body, and now that's merged into the symbiote, and I like that it sort of mimics Donna's own messed up head, and just with all the voices she's hearing and whatnot. So
Yeah, I was happy. It seems like Donna's consciousness is part of Scream, because I feel like Donna really never got a full characterization sometimes. So I'm hoping that if her consciousness is still part of Scream, that we'll get to see more of that later.
Right. For me, though, I think they could have done a better job at showing that, because, you had 4 voices, or 3 voices, right? You had Patricia's voice, you had Donna's voice for 2 panels maybe, and then you had the Scream symbiote's voice. But they were all a different shade of yellow. I mean, couldn't you make them different colors? It was sort of confusing to figure out, oh, this is Donna, this is this. I think I honestly would have preferred if they just made the symbiote Donna. I don't think you really need to have the Scream symbiote have its own personality. Especially because there really isn't a huge ton of fan for Patricia, because she's never been one of the figureheads of the Venom lore, and she doesn't have as much fans as like these other symbiotes and hosts do. And I feel like if you just made the symbiote Donna, you could have done a lot more. But I suppose we'll see in the next 2 issues, and maybe in the new series that's coming out, if that has anything to do with it.
And see, I actually liked the similar colored letterboxes, even though it kind of made it confusing. I feel like that was almost the point, where it's like Patricia's confused, she doesn't know who's talking. She's got Donna's voice, Scream's voice, her own voice, and Null in the background. So I thought it sort of added to the atmosphere of the comic.
Yeah, definitely. I really do like the fact that we're getting so many different voices in this. I do worry that it might detract from new readers, coming into this. Like, well, who are all these voices? Who's this Donna Diego person? And why is there such conflict? But it does add to the whole internal monologue of having Null's influence and all these different voices fighting for control over the symbiote and the host. So yeah, I especially liked the fact that Bunn gets to play a lot more with Andy. It's always fun to have Andy around, and she does hold her own quite well against the symbiote doppelgangers. So it will be very interesting to see how she handles against Scream and Patricia, and see where that goes.
I was just not even expecting Andy to pop up, and it absolutely floored me, and I cannot wait to see her and Scream fight. I am so excited about that. It's going to be so cool.
Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to that too. I mean, I wasn't really surprised that she showed up, because then I'm like, oh yeah, Bunn's writing it. So yeah. I'm really wondering how. Yeah, I'm really wondering how like the fight's gonna go between both of them. But yeah, no, like even as I was reading the issue, I also noticed like the Scream symbiote was like piloting Donna's dead body. But was that really her body? Because I really couldn't tell.
There were
her corpse.
She was a skeleton for a second, and then she just bones. So R.I.P.
And
speaking of that, I was a bit confused with the layout of the comic, because we had the scene at the beginning with her rising out of the grave or whatever, and then when they introduced Patricia, they like repeat that same scene but differently. That caused a little bit of confusion I saw online, where people thought that was a different skeleton, or like, was that Toxin, but no, I think that was just supposed to be Scream again, showing it with Donna's point of view at the same time. I don't know.
Yeah, that one kind of confused me too, because he thought it was a flashback, and I kind of thought, hey, is this like another person, another symbiote host coming up? So I'm still not real sure exactly what that was.
Yeah, so like along with all the other like this is a book for like, I feel like it's very hard for new readers to get into, especially if they're not sure what's going on and whatnot with any of these characters, and even when the layout's kind of confusing, it makes me worried how they're gonna take it. So
yeah, now especially talking about introducing new readers to these characters, I know there was some debate online, or at least some criticism of bringing back Patricia versus Donna, but I think that for new readers who maybe saw the Venom movie, I think a better character to have done this, I know it would cause a lot of issues, but a better character would have been Anne Wying. And
not yet. She's not ready. Not ready. Not ready.
Like I said in the last episode, I would hope to see Anne return alive and well, and in her Sarah Connors moment from Terminator 2. And this would have been a great way to do it. It would have been quite the shock. Like, how is she still alive? How did she become such a badass? I mean, if you look at Patricia's design, it's very reminiscent of Anne Wying. You could have rewritten the entire book, replacing Pat's name with Anne, and you still would have had, it would have been a good story. and it would have been
We're,
shocking.
we're definitely getting closer to that.
Yeah, that's a good point, but I feel like Kate's has plans for Anne.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, but she may wind up being the new Scream, but I don't know about having Anne in right now.
And now that's something that I think we should make note of, is that just recently a new Scream ongoing series called Scream Curse of Carnage will be debuting in November, and the mystery is who is Scream's new host.
I mean, I'd be all right with it if her new host end up being Anne, because I fully think that Anne's gonna get brought back, even if just temporarily somehow. But like you guys said, just because of how popular the character's gotten because of the movies.
And not to mention, Aliee, when you first heard the news, you were really, really excited.
Yeah, I cried. I'm not ashamed to admit that I cried, and
on video.
on video even, because like I had to record the reaction. I had to.
No, that was fantastic. I actually really liked the video you made there, because it was like, wow,
Thanks.
that is a true kind of fan, absolutely fanatic about this character, and it's great to see that kind of love for a character.
Thanks. I ended up having to sit down at the kitchen table and almost, because I ran outside and just started jumping around because I had to do something because I was so excited, and almost ended up having to use my inhaler because of it. That's how hyped I am for this.
Kind of sounds like me when the Venom movie finally became a reality.
Yeah. Let me say a few things more on Patricia. I feel like she gets more hate than she's due. I feel like her runs back in 2006, was it 2006, 2007? One of those? Yeah, 7. Yeah, or 3, it's old. I feel like she was very much a non-character. She sort of just got say, hey, here's the symbiote, you go do your own thing. But the one thing I think that she is really miscredited with is that a whole lot of the time that she's called She-Venom. Like when they started saying that she will be the new Scream, I saw a whole lot of folks saying, so like there were articles that were saying, hey, the new She-Venom is now going to be called Scream, right? So then of course all these folks are saying, oh, why can't she just be called She-Venom, But see the thing with her is that Patricia was never called She-Venom. And I'm not entirely sure why we as fans still call her She-Venom 2 when she really should be called Venom 2. Because even in that story, she never said she was called She-Venom. She was always just called Venom. So let's go change those wiki articles. Let's go make a difference.
Sorry, Angelo, you're now bumped to the 3.
Another thing I wanted to bring up too, because I was kind of thinking about this on the way back home from the comic shop, is that it's been so long since we've seen Scream in the Life Foundation symbiotes, and then after what happened in Remender's run when Eddie killed Donna with a knife, and I was just like thinking, like, how did this symbiote survive all of that time on Donna's body? And then all of a sudden it's pretty much woken up because Cletus is now back in New York. I don't know, it just seemed a little odd to me.
You bring up a really good point. I hadn't really thought about it that way before.
Yeah, no, that's just something I just wanted to point out. And also, too, like, even as I was reading through the issue, at one point, you see Scream, she has a spiral covering most of her face, but then all of a sudden it's now on her forehead, and Cletus also has it on his forehead, too, so I'm not sure if she's able to control Null's influence, or she's become more powerful.
Right.
One thing I didn't comment, I also am very glad to see Andy. I've heard some speculation being that Andy might be the new host for the ongoing. Personally, I'm hoping that's not the case. Like, I think I would like that more than Patricia. I still want Andy to go back to being Mania. I want to get the Mania symbiote back somehow. I think that's her best. That's definitely what I want most out of her. But
right,
we'll see where that goes.
Right. Yeah. Now we still have 2 more issues of Scream, and then we have all of the, like we have the Venom book and we have the main series, but I'm sort of wondering, when are we going to see her new design we saw on that variant cover?
I don't think we're seeing that. I think that was just
you don't think
a
we're going to
variant.
see it?
No.
Yeah.
I think it's just a variant.
Well, I think
And
we
just-
may see that on the, like in the main series book maybe later, but I mean, I kind of liked that look. See, like, who was the artist? That was David somebody, but he's the same guy who drew the
Gouderman
new
or something.
Life Foundation ones, I believe, right? So.
Nope, it was a completely different artist. You're
Oh, is it?
completely wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, it sort of looked the same, But yeah, so on the new series, we still have this whole entire arc and like events that happen, but I'm starting to think now it may be Andy, because I feel like Bunn has tried with Mania, and Mania's just not going anywhere. And Scream is a name that folks still kind of know, and folks still see Scream on that ride in Florida. So Scream still has some sort of relevancy. So maybe if Andy's Scream, maybe she can actually go somewhere. But I do like her look as Mania, but I don't know. We'll have to see.
But again, it could either be, hopefully, Anne. I mean, I would be happy if it was Anne. If she's still alive, if Anne comes back, just make her the new Scream. If she's alive and well, if what Orion is going to predict comes true, then I'd rather have Anne as the new Scream. But we'll just have to wait and see. That's all we can do.
When I look at Andy, I just immediately think Mania. I mean, I would be fine with it if she ended up being the new Scream, but it would take a bit of getting used to. I'm just really hoping that she gets Mania back.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like, weird things have happened. We have had Eddie Brock as Toxin too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of hint at that at the Absolute Carnage's number 3 cover, kind of. So
yeah,
her wearing the suit, but we'll see.
And I will say that one thing I didn't comment on is that I really like, along with the art, Sandoval's pretty good. I think he's improved somewhat from some complaints I had about him, and he still draws symbiotes very well. But I want to commend the artist, or the colorist as well, Eric Arciniega, I think is how you say it. And it's like the colors really pop this issue with the blue backgrounds and the vibrant Scream symbiote. They really do help, like, they bring the issue along.
Oh, totally. The art and the color just actually popped in the issue. Even in that one splash page. That splash page was amazing.
Yeah, the colors were just like, I am all about bright colors, and the colors were just amazing.
Mm-hmm. But I guess before we move on or anything, I just want to ask: does anybody have any predictions for the other 2 issues of the series, like along with the next? Since we're getting another series, does anybody have any guesses what's going to happen?
Andy and Scream fight for a minute, and then they team up, and then they fight Carnage, and then they lose, and then we have to read Absolute Carnage 5 to figure out what happens.
Pretty much exactly what I'm guessing.
Pretty much, yep.
Yeah, that's pretty much my guess too.
If the covers are anything to go by, that's exactly what happens. So.
Oh, wait. One last thing. Okay, so we know how there's 3 voices with Scream, right? We got the Scream symbiote, we got Donna, and now we have Patricia.
Yep.
Someone said earlier that sort of ties back to how Donna had schizophrenia, right? So maybe that's kind of what they're going for, where she's hearing like Null's voice and Carnage's voice and like all of these different voices. So that may be interesting if they bring back the Donna voice in there too. So.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think it would be cool if like the Donna and Scream symbiote merged into one voice. So it was like, it knows it's a symbiote, but it still has the personality of Donna. So I think that'd be kind of cool.
It would be amazing.
Now that's so one of our listeners, LT Carnage, asks, what if Scream becomes a hive mind of voices? Now that would be interesting. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
So cool.
I think, I mean, null forbid that that Anne is actually dead, but he does bring her back or whatever. If that were the case and Scream was able to, appropriate her consciousness into the symbiote. That would be another in for Anne as the host.
Could be a possibility. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I think it's this is a good point to put a pin in this conversation about Absolute Carnage Scream, and we're gonna move on to Absolute Carnage Separation Anxiety. It's a one shot by our future Scream writer. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Scream writer. Clay McLeod Chapman, and with artist Brian Level. So this was quite the issue. Like, I'm sure that a lot of people coming into Absolute Carnage are expecting, superhero versus supervillain symbiote madness, and we had a bit of taste of horror in Absolute Carnage #1, but in this, it's just full-blown horror. So, what's everyone's thoughts on this one?
I thought it was absolutely terrifying. And I seen that one of my friends had said something about it being, they did not have to go that hard with the horror elements, but they did. And I was not prepared for it. It was terrifying. I loved it.
Yeah, that the cold opening of the book really sets the tone for it, with the dog just mutating horribly into these 4 symbiotes.
I mean, I guess we found out what happened to the dog after Deadpool versus Carnage. So he just to that little neighborhood.
It went on a spirit walk and ended up in cozy little where does it end up really? What's this?
Colorado, wasn't it?
Is it
Colorado? Yeah, Colorado.
Oh yeah,
Arlington Cottage, Colorado.
Colorado. Isn't Doverton in Colorado? Or what was that? Doverton.
I don't recall.
I think Doverton's in Colorado.
That's interesting.
I think Doverton's in Colorado.
Yep, Doverton's in Colorado.
Wow, I wonder how close.
Yep,
interesting. The plot thickens.
Yes.
I like it.
Yeah.
Or it was in that place because that's where it first bonded and fought Carnage, I guess, and Carnage USA.
Maybe it was coming back to his cult. Maybe it was on its way there or something.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. So that's one thing I really liked about this book, was that it tried to show off the hybrid symbiotes wanting to help the family, because this kind of reminded me of when they were hybrid and they felt Scott's pain and they wanted to help Scott. That's Scott Washington, who's hybrid, who is dead now, supposedly. But yeah, so they wanted to help the girl. It's just that, they were null infected and everything hit the fan. So, that was kind of interesting to see how they were trying to help, but they were kind of in this trance by this elder god being.
It's really a Venom Lethal Protector kind of help. Oh yes, he's going to help you, all right. He's gonna murder everyone around you, but he's gonna help.
Yeah, no, I thought this was really just the art and writer had the perfect combination for a really good horror story, and it was just like you guys said, I really like the fact that in its own twisted way, it is trying to help this little girl. It's like, oh hey, don't worry, I'm here.
It was
your family's gonna get back together. Yeah, family bonding time. Yeah.
It was really over the top, and I kind of noticed in the book there was kind of some references to certain things, even though I don't know if it was if that was what they're going for. Like, for example, there was that one scene where the agony symbiote is in control of the mom, and then the next door neighbor opens the door and she throws up or spits acid in his face, and that to me just kind of reminded me of The Fly 2. And,
And fun fact, in her first appearance, Agony actually spit acid at Spider-Man, so she can do that. And I knew the whole time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
You totally didn't forget and say, guys, I don't think she can spit acid. I think that was a fan thing. And I looked it up. It literally took me less than a minute. It's right there.
I fully admit I'm tired. I had to pay $6,000 for a water heater. So I forgot.
I feel like one of my only cons for this book would be the fact that you don't get to see what happened to the dog, because it's sort of implied that Lasher is the dog for a bit. It's like growling and yelping while it's chasing her down and stuff.
I'm pretty sure that scene where it gets the dad shows it like being split in half, right? I'm pretty sure it's dead.
Yeah, it's dead.
I hope the dog's not dead.
Yeah.
No.
Talking realistically, I don't think a dog can survive having like 4 different symbiotes split it apart.
Yeah, it looked
Sadly.
pretty dead to me. Yeah.
Oh,
Rip
rip in peace, dog.
Now,
that boy/girl dog.
now I would say that the character design for this book is outstandingly horrific. I mean, not in a bad way, in a very, very creepy way. Like, you see in these characters, when they bond to the symbiotes, just pieces of their bodies sticking out, like their arms or their legs or their heads just sticking out of the entire body, and it's just super creepy.
They're not completely covered.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they are not fully bonded. Like, so you can see their elbows like out of their arms, and it's very creepy. Very creepy.
Yeah, now, we did get a good full look at these characters in their full symbiote forms in a variant cover for this issue. However, we don't get to see Sadie, the little girl, our protagonist, as Lasher. She bonds with the symbiote, but we never see her in her full form. So I'm assuming we'll see that later on down the line in Absolute Carnage.
Yeah, and I'm not too sure if they're gonna kill this family. They probably won't kill the kids, though, right? You know, like
Well, I
maybe
don't
Sadie
know.
becomes hybrid or something.
They're
We
gonna
just
I
had
don't
some
know.
kids die and scream, so...
Oh yeah, that's true too.
And then the kids from Doverton died.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, off panel though, you know.
Yeah.
Well, they're definitely going to appear in Venom number 17, and that's coming up soon.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Bring Sleeper back.
Also, I did appreciate another just deep Marvel cut at the password being Zemnu, a classic Marvel
Oh
monster.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed this, and I'm honestly kind of disappointed. It's just a one shot. I'd love to see I'd love to see how many of this horrific symbiote family going on terrifying adventures.
You see,
Yeah,
that's the thing. I thought it was a 3-parter. I didn't know it was a one-shot.
So did I. I was really bummed when I found.
Yeah, and I'd like to say that, you know, we'll see more of these people, you know, post Absolute Carnage, but I think it's pretty terrifying what's going on with them.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to point out is the second to last page. I really like the composition on it. We are framed with the house that they're in, and the kids and the family are leaving. And the house is itself a collection of 4 panels, and it's like for each room that we saw in this comic, and it's all the destruction and the mayhem and the absolute carnage that is left behind.
Yeah, no, the artist got really creative with the layout. Like, even in the beginning with the dog, like, in the shadow, and then the dog starts, like, you see the panels, the shadow turns into panels of the dog transforming.
Yeah.
And then even at the very end with, like, it, and then well, not the end, there's the big panel with the wine glass and whatnot.
Oh,
and
yeah,
also
yeah.
At the very end, like, as it goes into Carnage.
With the carnage, yeah. Yep.
So it's very creative on the artist's part.
Another thing, too, I was going to point out is that also at the dinner scene, where it's just getting even more freakier. Even Aliee would agree with me on this. The dinner scene kind of homages the Baker dinner scene from Resident Evil 7. So that's why I made the meme earlier.
Yeah, it looks a lot like that. To me, honestly, made it feel even scarier because Biohazard was terrifying, and you know the separation anxiety was terrifying, and you just I felt like the two things kind of got put together and made this huge, terrifying, awesome thing.
But not to mention too, like even from the meme that I made, is like they even had their dead neighbor's body on the table and they were eating him as the little daughter was still watching on, being infected by Lasher. And that was just even more freaky.
Now, I like to point out the dinner scene where they're all gathered around the table and they're saying their graces. I love the graces that they say. Good bread, good meat, good God, no, let's eat.
That was hysterical. Like, that was so darkly funny because I was not expecting it, because the whole, up to that point, everything's, horror and terrifying and darkness and fear, and then you've got symbiotes at the table saying grace to Null, and it was so funny.
Yeah.
You know, I did really enjoy, like, the whole, like, oh, your supper's getting cold. I love the whole, like, they're still trying to act as a family for this girl, even though they're going about it in a not exactly settling way. So it's, and it does kind of make me wish that they don't die and they get, I don't know, fixed, and then, like, we get some sort of wacky symbiote family. I would love something like that.
Yeah.
It'd be like a twisted sitcom with the 4 Life Foundation symbiotes making their family.
Yeah, practically.
Symbiote sitcom.
I mean, if you weren't clued in that this was a horror comic by the page where the dog erupts into this horror from beyond, the next page is definitely a clue to it when you see the father bond with Riot, and it looks like his guts are just hanging out. It's just absolutely terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my friend said, like, I haven't seen Chainsaw Massacre or Texas Chainsaw, whichever one it is, but apparently there is a bit of a reference to that with the dead body on the table. So it's definitely I think they had a horror thing in mind going into this, and I think it really paid off.
Yeah, I remember that scene from Chainsaw Massacre. Alright, well, I think this is a good place to put a pin in today's episode. So please listen in next week as we review Absolute Carnage vs. Deadpool #1. You can check out our Discord server and become a member of the audience during our next live recording. So join us, won't you? You can listen to We Are Venomaniacs on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Music and iTunes, Google Play Music, and YouTube. We can also be found on Twitter at WAV_podcast. As always, thank you to my fellow hosts Carlos, Tyler, Aaron, and Aliee for joining me today.
No problem.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks for inviting me.
Glad to have you here.
And thanks to the Venom site for permitting us to make this podcast under the TVS banner and all of your generous support. And thank you, loyal listeners and fellow Venomaniacs. You guys make an awesome community, and it's an honor to be your voice on the airwaves. Together, we are Venomaniacs. And now, a word from one of our partners at The Collective, a network of superhero podcasts.
I am Connor from the House of L.
And I am Ray from the House of Zod.
We are two of the many, many survivors of Krypton's destruction, and we have made our home in Australia, and dare I say, have become Australians, for better or worse. But we have also decided to read Superman comics, read Superman books, watch Superman shows, cartoons, movies, basically everything Superman, and from an Australian perspective as well. Whether you're a seasoned fan, like me,
Or whether you are coming in fresh, wide-eyed and wanting to learn more like me, then this podcast is for you. Join us for our bi-weekly adventures available on all good podcast catchers.
so just search for Last Sons of Krypton, a Superman podcast. We'll be coming to you from Australia or some cosmic dimension, wherever we are that week. Up,
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 and away.